Hey everybody, let's get going on Flappy 8. Flappy 8, we're going to do some collision detection and a little bit more game logic to get our game playing well. Okay, before we begin, I want to look at our Flappy Bird game that's on the internet. And I want you to notice that Bird is sort of in this waiting state and he's flopping up and down, right? Well, when I hit the space bar, now he's starting to fly, and it isn't until he starts to fly that the pipes start coming. Did you notice that? So in other words, when we're in the waiting state, our pipes are not moving, okay? And we need to get that coded in there. So let's go ahead and do that. And in order to do that, we need to go into our pipe object. And let's add a variable, and we're going to call that self.stopped equals true, because our pipes are stopped when we first start the game, because when we first start the game, our Flappy Bird is in a waiting state, okay? So self.stopped is equal to true, and the only time that our pipes are moving is when self.stopped is false. So in our update, we can say something like this. If not self.stopped, then we want to do all of this stuff. Now I'm going to select all this stuff. And if you're on PyCharm or probably Visual Studio Code, if you hit the tab button, notice how all that stuff tabs over, okay? If I hit Shift tab, they go back, okay? So you're going to get used to tab and Shift tab to move large blocks of code left or right, okay? So that's a very useful thing. So anyway, we're going to say when we start up, all the pipes, every pipe is stopped. And then when we update, in order to move the pipes, we're going to say, if it's not stopped, then we move the pipe, okay? So when we want to actually start the pipes is when we first hit the space bar and try to get out of that waiting mode, okay? So the fact that I just said that, we need to go down into our game loop and let's see what we can do there. Okay, here is our game loop, and we're saying if the bird is waiting, if Fabby is waiting, then we set it to false, and then we say Fabby.flap, and now we need to start the pipes moving. Okay, so we can do this. We can say for P in pipes, okay, colon, we're going to say P dot stopped equals true. False. Okay, so our pipes are no longer stopped. Let's see if that works. We'll go ahead and run that. So the bird's just flopping up and down. The moment I hit the space bar, now the pipes should start coming along, and sure enough, they do. Okay, now we're going to use that stopped methodology on a lot of our things, because we're going to stop the foreground base from moving, and we're also going to stop the bird from moving when he bumps into something. So let's go ahead and add stopped to our bird. Let's go up into our bird class, and we are going to say, let's put that right after waiting. Let's go self.stopped equals false, okay? Because we want our bird to be bobbing up and down when we are not in waiting mode. And then in our update, we are going to say, instead of this else, we are going to change this to if self dot elif not self dot stopped. Okay, so in other words, stopped is false. Okay, if it's false, then the bird's not stopped and our gravity's still increasing and we're still moving the bird around. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and drop an else in here as sort of a catch-all, and I'm just going to say pass. Okay, I don't think we really need the else, but let's put it in there just to be safe. Okay, so that added the stopped variable to our bird class, but remember I said that we also want to add that variable to our foreground class, which happens to be the base. Remember, that's that rotating base that looks really nice. Okay, so let's go up here and look at our foreground. Here's our foreground, and let's go ahead and add a self.stopped equals false, because we want it to go ahead and move along, right? And in here we are going to say if not self stopped, then we are going to do all of this. Okay. Now, just so you know, if not self dot stopped is the same thing as if self dot stopped equals false. Okay. Personally, it doesn't read as well in my brain to if not that. Okay, so you'll see a lot of times programmers will do this. Remember, this self.stopped is a Boolean variable, meaning it's either true or false. So if not false is true. So if this is true, then we're going to run these things. Okay? All right. Let's go ahead and run that. I don't think anything's going to really change. We should still be able to flap around and our pipes start. Okay, and there goes the bird. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. Now the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's go ahead and add our collision detection. So when the bird hits, things stop and the bird falls. Let's see what we can do there. Let's scroll on down. All of that kind of stuff happens within our game loop. So let's go down to here. Maybe like right after we update Flappy, let's put our collision detection in here. So we're going to say if pygame dot sprite collide any. Okay, now this is kind of an interesting. It basically means if any sprite is colliding with any other sprite. So, and we are going to pass it two different sprites. We're going to pass it Flappy, which is our bird. So if our bird hits any of our pipes, okay? If our bird hits any of our pipes, then we want to do something, okay? Or let's add one more thing here. We're going to say if Flappy dot rect dot bottom, okay, so that's the bottom of the bird, is greater than or equal to base, that's the base part, okay, that's the base object, dot rect one dot top. So the top of, remember there's a rect 1 and a rect 2 of the base, but that's both the same number. So base.rect1.top. Okay, so if either of those two things happen, then we got a few things we got to do. We need to stop the base. Okay, and the way we do that is we just say base.stopped equals true. Okay, so now our base is stopped, and we need to stop the pipes. Okay, because the pipes don't need to move. So we're going to say for P in pipes, P dot stopped equals true. Okay, so now our pipes are stopped. We don't really want to stop the bird because we want it to hit and then we want the bird to fall to the ground. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that and see what we got. Okay, so we're running, we click, 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 boom. It hits and the bird just falls all the way off the bottom. So what we want to do is we also want to check to see if the bird hits the bottom, and if he does, then we need to stop the bird from falling again. Okay? So let's go ahead and just drop in another if statement. So we're going to say if Fabby dot rect dot bottom greater than equal to base dot rect one dot top Fabby dot stopped equals true. All right, let's run that, see what we got. So we click, here we're running, we're moving along, boom, boom. Oh, we're gonna make it through this one. Up, we hit, and now notice my bird stopped, but he stopped like right above above that. Now let's look at the real game. If I click on it, let me restart. Notice how there's a lot of tilting of the bird. We'll get to that. But now my bird sort of stops above that. So let's make our bird stop a little bit above. And I think what we can do is just do this. If Fabby.rect.bottom plus, I don't know, say 10. So if it comes up to 10 above the base bottom, then the bird will stop. So let's go ahead and run that. See what we got. Do, 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 do. Here goes the bird. Smack. Everything stopped and the bird landed right there in a beautiful manner. All right, so I think we've made some great progress. That is the end of Flappy 8. We're going to start up Flappy 9 next. Until then, keep on coding.